everyone. Today we'll be talking about time variables. Time variables is one of the variables used in descriptive epidemiology. So what are the time variables? Time variables are cases presented in graphs that are related to time. So four types of time variables are secular trend, cyclic seasonal trend, point epidemics, and clustering.
Let us first discuss secular trend. Secular trend is one of the types of time variables. Conceptually, it refers to the decrease or increase in the variables within a time series. We use secular trends in epidemiology for the sake of determining the changes in the frequency of diseases within a corresponding time period. For our first example, we have here a line graph that clearly exhibits the pattern of lung cancer deaths within the male and female groups that correspond to their age within a specific time period. It shows that the males have a higher risk of dying due to lung cancer than women, and both gender groups exhibit a gradual tendency of lung cancer death as age increases. In some cases, we can observe the absence of a secular trend. This occurs when no changes are noted in the prevalence of the said disease. For example, hypertension affects almost one-third of the US population, and this has been consistent over the past few years. The trends did not exhibit major changes, and only a slight variation was observed.
Next is the cyclic trends, and this refer to the increases and the decreases in the frequency of a disease over a period of several years or within a year. It reflects seasonal changes in occurrence of disease following changes in the condition of the environment that may enhance the ability of the agent to replicate or to be transmitted. So next is the example of seasonal trend, and as we can see on this figure, it shows us the seasonal patterns or distribution of rubella, influenza, and rotavirus. As we can see in the first graph that the rubella is at peak during March to June, and as we can see also in 1964 the reported cases was so high because during at that time rubella vaccine was still not available. So next is the influenza, which is at peak in November to March, and of course lastly the rotavirus, which is at peak in February to April.
Point epidemic is the reaction of group of people in a particular location to a common source of infection, contamination, or other etiologic factors which all are exposed almost simultaneously. An example was demonstrated by an outbreak of cholera in London and the bombing in Japan. Cholera is an infectious and sometimes fatal bacterial disease of the small intestine that causes extreme vomiting and diarrhea, which you can acquire in polluted water sources. Ionizing radiation consists of particles, X-rays or gamma rays with sufficient energy to cause ionization in the medium through which it passes. It is very dangerous because it destroys the internal structures of living cells. As you can see in our picture, we have the epidemic curve for fatal cholera cases during the Broad Street outbreak in London in 1854. The other picture is the outcome of the bombing in Japan. Even though the timescales of these epidemics vary greatly, as do the nature of the diseases and their causes, everyone in both cases got exposed to the same causal component that caused the epidemic. We have the contaminated food in the restaurant or ionizing radiation from the bomb blast. In a point source outbreak, the exposure is usually new to the community, which accounts for the epidemic.
Let us move on to clustering. Clustering in epidemiology is a closed group series of events or cases of a disease or other health-related phenomena with well-defined distribution pattern in relation to time. So there are two types of clustering. This is the spatial clustering and the temporal clustering. Spatial clustering indicates cases of disease that occur in a specific region. And the other one is temporal clustering, which denotes health events that are related in time. So here are examples of clustering. First one, this is an example by temporal clustering, in which it is related to time. This is the this is the pregnancy mortality rate of women. So during pregnancy, this happens between the initial symptoms and the initial cardiopulmonary arrest in pregnancy, in which there are a number of cases that signify which type of symptoms occurs in women during the progress in time. We have the next example. This is the spatial temporal clustering, in which this is called spatial temporal clustering because it involves time as well as it involves a specific region, in which the region is the province of Zhejiang in China. This is a graph of the food hand-mouth disease that happened in the region, which several enteroviruses of the virus is responsible for each attack during each year. Thank you for listening. I hope that you have understood everything about time variables.